Hi, my name is EJ Massa, and this is the Review Lounge. Joining me today is Mike, Aaron, Frankie, and John. And today we're talking about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I want you to talk about your earliest memory of the franchise, your first encounter with the franchise.
The year was 1977.
He wasn't even born.
I was at a drive-thru.
Aaron, why don't you start then?
Sure. Somewhere around the age of 10, I got into it very late in the game. I was over my aunt and uncle's for the whole summer, and they were huge Star Wars, Star Trek fans, had a ton of memorabilia and such. So they just had me sit down and watch A New Hope, and I binge-watched all 3 episodes in one day because I just loved it. Kind of really fell in love with it, became fanatical at some point during middle school to high school years where my walls were covered in boxed Star Wars stuff, old stuff from the 70s, cards.
I would not tolerate that.
I had tons and tons of stuff. That's
Our friendship was predicated on who knew more about Star Wars.
Yep. It started kind of as an antagonistic rivalry.
It was right as Phantom Menace came out.
And most people are out at the bus ready to fist fight. Frankie and I are battling Star Wars lingo.
Circling around one another like buzzards.
And then Jedi Knight, that was another big thing.
Yeah, there's a huge point of our life. All our friends kind of communed around Jedi Knight.
The Dark Forces sequel.
Yeah, I love those games. I played, was it Jedi Outcast, I think?
Yeah, it came just afterwards on the Xbox One and stuff.
For me, I remember I was probably like 5 or 6, and my dad said, "You know what you gotta see is Star Wars." And I was like, I don't know what that is. And the fact that he was recommending it almost made it seem boring. Like if any kind of recommendation from my dad seemed like maybe not a great idea. But he bought the
Suddenly you're watching The Color Purple.
He bought the CBS home video release. There was a VHS. It was full screen of A New Hope. And I had that, so I had Star Wars. They advertised Empire and Jedi right afterwards, and so the only evidence that I even had that there were sequels was a couple of clips from Empire and Jedi in the pre-roll.
The adventure continues in The Empire Strikes Back.
Vader wants us all dead.
He doesn't want you at all. He's after somebody called Skywalker.
And then there was some documentary they were advertising called From Star Wars to Jedi that was like a making of. And so I was into some of that stuff. But I watched A New Hope a few times at that age, found it actually pretty boring and incomprehensible. At age like 5, 6, too boring. Then around age 10, when the special edition came out and people...
And that's what I was just going to ask, actually.
Yeah.
Anybody here start with the special editions?
No.
I started right before the special editions.
Yeah, it was the VHS release that I was first exposed to was the one with had Darth Vader's head, Yoda's head, and a stormtrooper
That was
head.
one of the most famous ones. And probably one of the best releases. Because that was the one that was widescreen, completely unaltered, well, sort of. Any real Star Wars nerd knows that every iteration from theatrical to VHS actually, there are small changes. Like, for instance, Episode 4 wasn't even in the movie until several
VHS,
releases.
right?
Until the VHS, yeah.
They add new CG.
And there was a period of time where it was actually difficult to find the original cut again after the special edition came out.
Well, it still is. I mean, they still haven't formally released.
Oh, they have not? No.
It's a big, hubbub.
I think it's probably gone. They think there's no copy of it.
Otherwise, they would have done it by now. But Disney has the best chance at this. And there are some like film nerds who have went to every bit of source they can find and have tried to figure out a way to cut it all back together again in HD.
Oh yeah, it's the despecialized editions.
Yeah.
It's this guy Harmy on the internet, and a bunch of other collaborators just cobbled together an HD version without all the special edition nonsense. Even stuff like adding the non-Windows back to Empire Strikes Back and the Cloud City.
Yeah.
Everything.
But the thing is,
the silliest editions. This is going to change the movie.
There actually is a quote from Lucas that where he said, "I'm sorry if you fell in love with an incomplete movie."
Because Java was really supposed to be in the hangar with Han.
Yeah, and do redundant information that Greedo already said.
We were fine. But the thing was, right before the special editions came out, I watched A New Hope, and again, I hadn't seen the others. I watched A New Hope probably. I mean, I wore the tape out. I probably watched it 50 times. Every night as I went to bed, I fell asleep to it. And I'm telling you, I love this movie. And then when the special editions came out, it was actually really exciting and fun. I remember at age 10 being like, wow, that, and they changed that, because I knew every beat of it. And it was kind of fun at first, and then I was
yeah.
like, but anyway, back to the old ones. And they were like, no, you're not going back.
I thought it was fun for New Hope and Empire, and then Return of the Jedi, which at the time was my favorite because when you're a kid, Return of the Jedi is awesome.
Yeah.
And
Why is that?
I don't know, but it was definitively my favorite.
Mine too.
And
It's just so
every
epic.
adult is Empire, of course.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally,
like
it was the first one I saw. Like,
Okay.
I saw it at a friend's house. Like, he was just like, put this TV on while we're like playing with action figures. And I had no frame of reference for what I was seeing, but it was amazing. And I gobbled up every moment of it. And for the special editions, that's when I got pissed off, is when we got to Jedi and there was that stupid Muppet show in Jabba's palace out of nowhere. Okay, the special edition thing has gone too far.
I didn't know to be angry about it at age 10. I was like, well, I guess there's a dance number now. I didn't like it, I'll tell you that. But
People were addicted to CG then. They were like, we've got to use it everywhere we can find.
it was brand new. It was
Brief
brand new.
period.
Can we find a place to put a dinosaur?
It was the
He
new
was
toy.
definitely laying for the future of what would happen.
Yeah.
You know, I actually don't. I'm probably not as strong a fan of the series as you guys are.
An unwelcome attendee.
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
No, I certainly like the. I thought they were great movies. You know, certainly groundbreaking in the terms of science fiction film.
I
But
guess you could call it a movie.
but I never. Besides, I mean, I saw
adding.
reruns on TV in the '80s, and that was really about it until the prequels, where I watched them all properly before, probably the special editions just before the prequels came out, which was very late. I mean, that was in the late '90s. So.
Is anybody even going to talk about episode 1 through 3?
No, we're skipping that.
Nobody's even referenced it yet. Like,
Well, I mean, that ties into this movie. I think they tried very hard not to mention like anything that happens in these prequels, like the look, the feel.
I mean, to be fair, I've spent the last 10, 15 years of my life as something of an internet figure that dislikes the prequels. I mean, I'm no Plinkett, but between Lord of the Rings by George Lucas and then People versus George Lucas, if there's anything I'm known for besides cooking mac and cheese, it's disliking George Lucas. I'm not allowed to like them at this point.
There's nothing to like.
There are maybe some moments, if I'm being completely fair. Yeah. If you watch the first few minutes of Phantom Menace, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then things go steeply
until
downhill.
the Trade Federation comes into play, and you're like, who are these people?
What is
Because
happening?
nobody's ever going to tell us.
I definitely had no idea what the plot was, like when I first saw it. I remember
same.
being so excited and watching and thinking things looked cool. Like
You were fanatic to the point where, like, because I just kind of wanted to know the name of everything. I wanted to know the name of the ship they were driving in on in the very opening scene to Phantom Menace, the Radiant Seven. That's
probably what we were
just,
doing.
but you're more, like, just focused on details more than the actual story.
I remember being like, I want to be a pod racer. That seems
I want to be
so
part of the
cool.
universe. I kind of want to...
Well, Star Wars was, I wasn't into Tolkien at that age or anything else really. Star Wars was probably the first thing where you were like, oh, it's not just this movie or that movie or that movie. It's also this book and this comic and this video game, and it all intersects into a
universe, and you have this whole world that you can kind of follow around.
Yeah, and that's great if you want to do it. But if the great thing about the original Star Wars is you could be as casual as you want. You can watch any of the movies. Like, for instance, like a friend of mine without any Star Wars experience watched Empire and knew exactly what was going on the whole time because they're approachable like that. They have characters that you're like, okay, that's the cocksure smuggler. There's archetypes there that, but if you go to the like Phantom Menace, you really have to do your homework because there's so much intricate trade stuff.
Ironically, it's episode 1.
Yeah.
It's actually meant to be the entry point.
Yeah.
It's meant to be the entry point.
Establish the story for us.
I had to watch it 3 times before I knew exactly sort of what was going on, you know?
I think George Lucas took that one line where he goes, "Did you know my father in the Clone Wars?" And he's like, "I gotta make a movie out of this."
I wonder what I meant by that.
What he's talking about. Doesn't even know it's himself.
I didn't write it. At this point, that's the only thing that would make sense.
Yeah.
If he came clean and was like, I had nothing to do with the creative process of Star Wars.
So let's get into
Yes.
The Force Awakens. There was a lot of hype surrounding this.
Yeah, there was tons of hype, an unimaginable amount of hype, and I think you need to cut it out of your viewing experience.
You do, and I tried so desperately to avoid anything about.
I don't find it hard to cut the hype out.
Neither do I.
I don't find it difficult to, like, yeah, of course, there's a billion nerds excited for a new Star Wars movie. I'm not going to let that affect the way I'm receiving a narrative.
But it did get to the point where people were like, just in random articles, like I was in like a political article, people would comment like, we're going into spoiler territory, by the way.
Spoilers. Stop.
It would be like Kylo Ren killed Han Solo, just randomly in a political...
Really? Can we talk about that for a second? The
Yeah.
spoiler culture. So, like, I remember back when it was funny and even kind of fashionable to drive by like a line.
Snape killed Dumbledore.
Yeah, exactly.
Snape kills Dumbledore.
And people thought it was funny because it was just like a few nerds that were like, ah. But nowadays, I'm noticing that people are like, if you fucking spoil it.
Yeah, people are serious.
Kill you and your family.
They're like, and those people, and I know there's a few political comments and when people spoil it, and they should burn in hell.
Yeah, like Reddit had this really serious effort about like the mods all like if they saw those comments, they pull them out of every board.
And look, I do relate to like I wouldn't want, especially a movie that's been long anticipated, to have it spoiled. But maybe if you're gonna see it opening weekend, just stay off the internet for a couple days.
And luckily, I didn't see that comment, spoiler comment, until after I saw it. So,
Yeah.
but it was pretty shocking because like I just don't care really about spoilers. I didn't want to know anything, but if I saw a spoiler, I'd just be like, ah, all right. Yeah, people do get violent. They get almost as violent as like real social issues.
I was talking to one guy I used to work with, and he was talking about the last Hobbit movie. I was like, oh yeah, remember that part when Gandalf? And he goes, don't say anything, don't say anything. I was remember when Gandalf died? And he just punches me wicked hard in the arm, and I get this huge bruise.
Books have been out for a long time. Story is pretty established.
60 years. That is like Luke, I am your father at that point.
Yeah.
You bitch!
Now, let me just say though that that spoiler, that's kind of the easy one-line spoiler. But as soon as you started watching that movie, you knew that was going to happen.
That's the thing, is like everything in this movie was telegraphed.
Yes.
And if you've actually even seen A New Hope, you know almost every beat that this story's gonna go.
But a lot of people are like, this is just beat for beat the same thing as A New Hope. And I actually do think that's unfair.
That is unfair.
I think that there are three major things that are very A New Hope, and everything else is kind of new.
No, I agree with that completely. I think it is definitely built to evoke
There's
A New
a parallel.
And I
there.
appreciated that. I mean that's what everyone wanted. Isn't it?
On the other
That's what
hand,
I wanted.
A little bit
It should be a
too much,
reboot
though.
at that point. though.
On the other hand, I don't know
reboot
if
it.
I need to see. I don't know if I needed to see the rebels destroy the Death Star and Return of the Jedi, let alone.
Yeah,
We're never gonna get to it. That the old actors were depressing.
I thought that
I'm with that.
I was
Remember
happy
the
to
old
see
Carrie
them.
Fisher? Face falling off.
Carrie Fisher, I wasn't a fan
She
of,
can
but
barely
Harrison
talk
Ford.
anymore. She's like,
he was
Han, you're
fine.
still driving me crazy.
Yeah.
I'm with Aaron on this. I
Then
thought they were
Mark Hamill
terrible.
was so bad they didn't even let him speak.
He did have that flamboyant moment.
I mean, he looked great.
How come he had like
You look like Luke.
80s rocker hair?
That would have been great. Just,
Maybe it's just me. I really liked seeing like Chewie and C-3PO. I liked seeing everybody again.
no, me too. That's not my
That's
complaint.
J.J. Abrams' MO, though. He did it with Star Trek. He wants to draw some. He doesn't want people to be like, I'm not watching this because I love the old ones. And it's a way to get people just to.
I thought in that regard it was
relate
actually
with the
really
old ones.
skillfully placed together.
He did the
Like,
same
hook
thing
everybody
with Star
in.
Trek.
And one thing, why the hell did they put in there? This is bigger than the Death Star. What was that? That was so like.
Oh, it was like here's what the Death Star looks like, and it was like a whole diagram.
That reminds me of Team America when they're like,
It would be 9/11 times 100.
9/11 times 100. Jesus, that's...
Yes, 91,100.
So let's talk about JJ for a minute. Were you guys fans of JJ beforehand?
No.
Did you?
What
No.
else has he done?
Fringe.
Fringe.
I don't know things.
Lost.
Star Trek reboots.
Well, I actually liked Super 8. I don't love Super 8, but I liked Super 8. I actually, neither of the Star Trek movies were for me.
It wasn't really Star Trek though.
No.
Yeah,
It was like a Star Trek skin on a movie.
It was definitely like his Star Wars audition tape.
In fact, I'm surprised anybody abided him turning Star Trek into Star Wars. That seems so sacrosanct. But I actually, for my personal sensibilities, I prefer this new Star Trek trailer that just came out where they're like, oh my God, it's sabotage!
yeah.
Let's hope this doesn't get messy.
And nobody likes that. No one.
I know, except for me.
He has no part of the new Star Trek one, right?
Fast and the Furious guy. So the Rock
anyway.
is gonna be flexing and stuff.
Gonna be a bunch of spaceships racing and going
in.
underneath 18-wheelers.
I thought this was a good job by J.J. Abrams in this film.
Yeah, he did a great job.
It was great because you could tell there was J.J. Abrams moments. You could see a couple lens flares here and there, but I'm glad he actually toned himself down. He turned down the dial on the J.J.
Yes.
Abrams.
Yeah.
Well, he probably reads the internet, and he's probably a little tired of reading lens flares himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'll do less of that.
What if it started with previously on Star Wars?
I like that title crawl where they're like, Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Yeah.
Because
That
would be a cool way to enter into a sequel to Return of the Jedi. That said, I personally needed a little bit more layout of what has happened in the intervening time.
Yeah, there was some unclear elements to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't lost, but I wanted to know more of what went on.
And shouldn't the Resistance be just the Republic? Like, why are they now a new rebellion?
It should have just been the Republic Army or something. Yeah.
That makes way more sense.
I do like that. So the Empire's not around anymore, right? In the Force Awakens, it's the First Order. It just kind of kept hitting me after I watched the movie that the Empire's not really established anymore, and then almost all the commercials are like, "Beat the
Darth
Empire." And it's totally not this movie.
Beat the Empire at Subway.
And where does the Sith, zombie Sith come from out of nowhere?
Oh, Snook? Snooky?
I think it should be Darth Plagueis the Wise. As much as I hate the prequels, that would at least for
Well,
me
we only
kinda-
heard about him. We never actually get to see him, and he was the
That's
one that trained
true.
the Emperor.
Like, I would rather that than like just some new made up thing.
And is he
Even if you
big?
didn't.
Or is it just a big
I think he's
projection?
normal size.
Yeah, he's probably compensating for
Imposing.
something.
I think it's meant to be like the Greek god sort of thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it mirrors in Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren's the same.
Kylo.
I keep saying one of me.
Kylo Gage.
Kylo Gage. I think he uses like similar things where he doesn't need a mask, but he's using like it has an intimidation mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, I gotta say, like that whole thing of like, oh, I can feel myself being pulled to the light side. I was like, that's good shit because we've never seen that before,
No.
and it's also a nice inverse idea. You actually are you're scared that you'll be anything but who you currently are.
He was my favorite part of
Yeah, he was good.
the film.
Except he had a dumb face.
It kind of looked like a weird version of like a squished Harrison Ford.
Let's just say a Jewish Harrison Ford.
What happened to the midichlorians? Where did they go?
Well, you want them there?
You know, we are universally panning the prequels, but people defend them to death in our
Don't I know
web
it?
videos.
Yeah, EJ and I made a cartoon last year where we just thought it was funny, where it's like, you know, JJ works for basically the Star Wars Corporation. Like, he's not allowed to come out and be like, the fucking prequel sucked, guys. he has to avoid the question, basically.
Right.
So people are like, what do you think about the prequels, really?
What'd you think about the prequels? You hated them, right? They fucking sucked. Well,
He's gonna be like, you know what I really liked was Empire Strikes Back. so we made a cartoon that was him in an interview doing that, and like half of the comments are very negative. They hate us, and they mostly hate us because there's a quick joke in it about like, hey, how come a stormtrooper's black? Aren't they all clones? And he's like, I'm not putting that prequel shit in my movie. That's the joke, and they all are like, the stormtroopers are not clones. Why do people keep saying that?
Well, it's funny, in this movie, they're like, oh, we should have used clones. It's like almost assuming that they've always been clones beforehand.
It continues to be unclear.
If you just go by the movies, motherfuckers, they might be clones.
And they have, in the comments, they have such like solvent reasoning for their like,
Yeah.
first of all, they're kind of sort of different heights. Second,
That one has a bigger crotch.
second of all, I think they have different voices. Third of all, they kind of banter, don't they? That doesn't seem very clone-like. I'm like, guys, if you watched episodes 1 through 6 casually, you would always assume that the stormtroopers continue to be clones. Especially in like some of the screenwriting.
ridiculous.
Some of the screenwriting is very basic and they just tell you what's going on. Don't you think at one point in one of these movies they'd be like, we stopped cloning people?
Well, I think they made it really clear in this film, crystal clear.
Yeah, they made it
Well,
crystal
you
clear
know,
they're
like,
like orphans or something.
Is
And then I saw
stormtroopers.
something in the comments. It's like, obviously, Finn is Lando's son. It's like, why does everybody have to be related to the
Every
prequel?
black person has to be related to another black person. Why is Lando related to Oprah Winfrey?
Can I just say, like, how cruel is it to blow up a planet of orphans that were ripped from their families? And the resistance is like, well, we might as well just kill them. I'm not gonna unbrainwash them. I'm killing them.
Do you guys think there was a lot of fan service in this movie? Do you think it was just the right amount or a little too much?
I think too much.
You gotta rekindle the fire, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel. I thought that the prequels had kind of taken away so much fan service. There was like no service at all.
Well, that's not true. I mean, it's Darth Vader built C-3PO.
There's a protocol droid to help Mom.
where is everybody?
Whoops.
That's pretty fan service.
But you know, like.
I did like C-3PO's introduction. It's like, you might not recognize me because of my arm.
The thing about fan service that's kind of tricky, I think, is like, let's say for a minute, you're the one directing this movie. Are you gonna just like walk into the Millennium Falcon with no reveal? Like you just be like, oh yeah, there it is, or not have it in the movie at all. I mean, like it should probably be in the film, and when it shows up, it should probably be like revealing a character that you've been anticipating, waiting for. So you've got to play up the fan moments a little bit, but to do it, obviously, it's a delicate balance. And in general, I thought we were okay.
I think so too. I think it was almost too much.
The thing that was too much, from a fan service point of view, from a copying New Hope point of view, all that shit, something they really should have gotten rid of was the Star Killer.
Yeah.
If that just wasn't in the movie, a lot would be better.
Or if it had to be in the movie, like they should have just disabled it or something, and then it like moves on to the next.
As of right now, 3/7 of the movies have a star. Star Killer in them. That's Ben the bad guy in 3 out of 7 of them.
At least Lucas in the prequels was like, nah. Can I just say something about Phantom Menace real quick?
Yes.
I was thinking about Phantom Menace the other day, and I was like, that is a movie that should be 5 minutes long. Because of ridiculous writing. Like, it starts with, like, Jedi ambassadors show up to have a chat. They try to kill them. Now they got to go alert somebody that the Trade Federation tried to kill them. But they get to the wrong side of the planet. So they got to go through the right side of the planet. Then they're like, oh, they knocked out our cell phone towers, so we can't call anyone.
I didn't pay my bill.
Well, can we get off the planet and call someone that way? Sure, but the plane broke.
We're out of gas.
Well, crap, we crashed here. Well, how do we get a new part? They don't have any parts. Well, what about with money? They don't take money. That actually happens in the movie. And then, like, by the time they get to Coruscant and are like, they're trying to kill us!
Everybody's dead.
No one remembers. No one remembers what's going on.
You don't remember those two Jedi being
attacked. And
attacked.
actually, Attack of the Clones is kind of the same thing.
Which was refreshing in this movie because I actually liked all the characters, and I'm really excited to see where they're going to go.
It kept a lot of intrigue. Like I was really for me, it's kind of like, remember Interstellar this past year? I didn't love every bit of it, but the thing that kept me watching the movie was like, when are Matthew McConaughey and his daughter going to reunite? That's the dramatic core that's making me still go like, when's it going to happen?
Yeah.
For me in this movie, it was all about Luke Skywalker. Mm-hmm. He was in the movie for 5 seconds, and he was the reason I was watching the entire film. Yeah. It was just the intrigue of like, when's Luke? Because I knew how much of a dramatic impact he was going to have on the movie.
Well, I was actually really interested to see also her kind of awakening of the Force in her too. I thought
even if it was absurd.
There's a cat on the table.
Oh, hi, cat. Bye, cat.
Leia obviously has decided not to partake in any.
Yeah, she opted out of Force.
It actually kind of shocked me. I was like, I thought by now Leia would be like at least
able to get herself a coffee from a distance. Do something cool with it.
I do have to say, like for me, she really brought down the movie.
Yeah.
Like anytime she was on screen, I was like, you would never cast this person in a million years. And Harrison Ford, I know a lot of people loved his performance in this. No. I thought he did okay.
I liked him.
Compared to Carrie Fisher, it was night and day. Yeah. But most of the time, especially when he was running, he was like, here we go.
Yeah, I really liked him in it.
It makes no sense.
I really want to know how Mark Hamill's going to do.
Aaron Lee Domber to me in the theater, and he goes, I haven't acted for 30 years. I think they need to kind of start killing those old characters off.
Oh, yeah. One fell swoop, a car accident. 1997 Toyota Corolla. No airbags.
Otherwise, spaceships.
4 killed in a fatal crash.
Ancient technology dug up.
I don't mind keeping Chewie around. Chewie can stay.
Do you think he'll die?
I don't think so.
Well, they got that basketball player playing him.
Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah, because like the guy who played him in the 70s, like they just got him for a couple close-ups. He can't really move.
He's got his knees are like fake.
They should have put Chewie in a wheelchair.
He's like 7'2", and so you get old. That was 40 years ago. Those guys don't live that long.
Yeah.
And so they got him for a few close-ups, and then otherwise they got this like hot basketball player.
Yeah.
Something that maybe people aren't talking about as much is, I think it's really dumb. Everybody wants to see Han Solo, the smuggler pirate. And they've returned him to that for a fan service. Because really who he should be 40 years later is a general in the Republic.
That's right.
That's the character arc that should have happened. And instead, they just returned him, and they have a throwaway line of like, oh, I went back to doing what I used to do. Just to get you there. Just like, oh my God, I stole back the Millennium Falcon. And same goes for Leia. I'm like, is she honestly still at this?
Yeah.
Did you think Han Solo's death was earned in this movie?
It's so silly. He just kind of walked slowly toward his son.
I actually think Han Solo was on borrowed time. Like, I feel like he had to go.
He should have died for sure.
When they were there and I realized that it was going to happen, because I knew it was going to happen right as he stepped onto the bridge, I was like, well, this is good actually, because you can't just keep making him the main character in these movies.
No, you need to. I thought this movie did actually do overall a really good job of transitioning us from one world to another, and that's not an easy task.
And what a great narrative twist to be like, our main bad guy killed his own dad, Han Solo. He is foregone.
That to me was just clear writing attempt to earn the death scene more. Like to try to make that worth more than it actually was in the film.
But it was good.
I did like it. I thought it was good.
I liked his temper tantrums.
I really feel like he was like, this is like a Pokemon reference, but he was like the Charmeleon to Darth Vader's Charizard.
Yeah.
Like the weird, like, pubescent
like
baby
wannabe
version.
I remember going into the trailers being like, you know what would be cool? Because we knew in the trailers that this guy was a Vader fanatic. I was like, if he's Darth Vader's grandson, way better. Because that's kind of like skinhead to Nazi kind of stuff, where it's like you hop because you never respect your parents, but maybe you respect the concept of your grandparent or something like that. And I also liked that there was no, Han, I am your son. It was kind of just told.
Yeah,
said it.
It was, and what I really hope, and I hope it's not being telegraphed, is that Rey is not Luke's daughter.
I don't need everybody to be related.
Because, we need to get beyond this one family.
Otherwise, as Aaron mentioned it right after the movie, he's like, I think it's time to kill the Skywalker line.
Yeah.
Because they seem to cause all kinds of shit.
Alderon's gone. The whole system of Coruscant is gone.
Yeah, good.
Isn't that what happened?
Yeah.
It was actually really hard to tell.
No. They say in the movie that
they used the word Coruscant?
He said he's going to wipe out the Senate.
Oh.
And we all know the Senate is a Coruscant.
Okay.
That's the closest it got to the prequels and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they wiped it out.
Jar Jar Binks was in Senate. He was trying to start another Clone War.
Emergency power! Well, we talked a lot about about Han and Chewie, ship life.
Oh yeah. That's his co-pilot, and I like that 40 years later, Han's never shot his crossbow. He shoots it twice, and each time he's like, wow, this thing's awesome.
We were like, these two have been in the most intimate of circumstances together. Like, don't tell me he never shot his gun. We know that like Chewie's been sick with the flu before, and Han nursed him. Probably had to wipe his butt at one point. Speaking of Chewie. I just like seeing Chewie. I'm glad Chewie's there. I'm glad he was at least in the background of most of the movie. Right after Han died and he started being like, and he started blowing everything up, and then he just appeared outside suddenly. He was like,
I thought he was hitting it inside and doing a kamikaze mission, and then suddenly,
I thought so too.
Millennium Falcon with him flying it.
I'm glad he's alive, but I thought that's what was going on. And that was the second time in this movie. The first time was Poe Dameron's ship getting in the quicksand. Yeah. Where like clearly someone died on camera, and then they popped up later. That character was probably my favorite. Poe Dameron. I thought he was funny. He was interesting. He was clearly convicted on the side of the resistance.
He's going to play a more integral role, I'm guessing, in the next two.
He's their best actor, in my opinion.
Yeah. He instantly made you love him. He instantly sold the relationship between Finn and him.
Yeah.
It was just like everything was. Yeah, he was amazing.
He really handed it to Finn by giving him the name and giving him like kind of a start. And then after that, Finn was good to go too. Yeah. I did think it was totally asimine that Finn ever even got the lightsaber at all.
I thought it was actually kind of cool that a non-Force user was using a lightsaber.
He should have been murdered quickly.
He put up a really good fight.
He was a little too skilled at everything he did. And that was kind of one thing that this movie tried really hard to do, was to make the stormtroopers not suck.
But I'm sure in their training they must do some hand-to-hand combat stuff.
Of course, but
put up against the second-hand man of the Empire. Why the fuck wouldn't he just like force grip him?
Yeah.
You have no force ability.
He was all fucked up. That's why he kept going like back to get shot.
That was cool.
Oh, that's a good point.
Restarting his force power?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I figured that it was like, I don't know, he's channeling his pain and anger, and that was trying to...
Yeah, for me, it drew attention. No, it did.
Does your force start to leak?
It drew attention to the fact that they were actually, that something is clearly wrong with him.
Rey fighting him, I buy, because she obviously
Right.
is still
that makes perfect sense. And obviously she's really adept because she started.
And it was super cool to see her kind of win the day. But like Finn's little quick moment. Finn with the lightsaber against that stormtrooper in that battle.
That's fine.
I buy it.
That's fine.
But not against.
But against Kylo Ren. You just set up especially the first 10 minutes. They're like, don't even get near this guy.
You didn't even have to.
He knows where you go. He knows where you are. He knows what you think, and he knows how to kill you.
He will rip up your entertainment center when he is mad.
I was thinking about there's some spin-off movies coming up, like Rogue One and all this sort of stuff. They're making a young Han Solo movie, and I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? How young is this Han Solo going to be? Because the one that we saw in A New Hope was like 30. So, is he going to be 20, and that justifies casting a new kid? Like, that seems ridiculous. Guys, if you're going to do spin-off movies, and you have to start with something that fans already recognize, like if you don't want to go too crazy with it, just do what's obvious. Do the Boba Fett movie, and don't bring in the clones or anything. Let's just see a guy who goes planet to planet, banging hookers. Like he knows smugglers, he knows pirates, he's friends with them, but everybody knows like, hey, if you have a bounty though, don't be anywhere near him. Yep. Like I'd watch that movie.
And Star Wars and kids is just never a good mix. It's terrible.
It would be like a young adult Han. They'll get the guy from Age of Adeline to play him.
Are they going to get like a younger, hotter basketball player to play young Chewie? There's a lot of diversity in this movie. And I actually I think that that's really cool in a series of movies that are about like a completely fictional galaxy. There should be lots of different types. If it's a bunch of all white guys, it makes no sense. I mean, Lord of the Rings, it's an Anglo myth. Like, I get it if it's a bunch of white guys. This makes no sense. So I thought it was super cool to see Finn, super cool to see Rey. It all made good sense to me. I only had one problem, which was I really felt that after a while I was getting pandered to by how powerful Rey was. Like, where she kept being awesome, and then someone would make a comment about how awesome and independent she was. It could just be awesome, and you don't have to be like, that girl really knows what she's doing.
They really didn't want to do the damsel in distress thing.
They're not going to be over the head with it a little bit. Like, you don't need to keep pointing out, like, you thought you were going to save her, but then, no, you don't even need to have that. Just show it. I like the character, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing her adventure.
You know, one thing along those lines that I also really loved in this film was practical locations and practical creatures.
The only effects I didn't like was the like roly-poly tentacle monsters.
That was.
How'd you like BB-8's like grappling hooks? I thought that was kind of cool.
I thought BB-8 was cute.
Watching him get around, I thought was clever and not dumb.
He feels like a puppy. Like, do you really want your robot being like the lost dog?
I thought it was good. I thought he fulfilled that comic relief kind of character.
It was the natural evolution of R2-D2.
It's kind of smacking you over the head because R2-D2 for 6 movies, man. Like every time you need something, he's got like a lighter or he's got like a blowtorch.
In episodes 4 through 6, I think R2's all of his functions make sense to me. In 1 through 3, he can fly.
Yeah.
He spills oil and kills.
And he's like burning people with his thruster.
Yeah. That is absurd. And I thought BB-8 lived in a much more realistic kind of. I thought it was a great addition. And there were puppets in this thing that really you would never put in a modern movie normally, and they put it in this movie.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. So wrapping up, I want to go around the table, and I want you to give a arbitrary number out of 10 and a short justification of why you picked it.
So I give it 8.5 out of 10. I really liked it. I liked like I said, the return to practical effects. Overall, it was just a great action film. You know, even if you take the Star Wars kind of away from it a little bit, it was just I thought it was just a really solid movie. I'm really excited to see where we go from here.
For me, it was 7.5 out of 10. Amazing action. A few really cool places to take the story. It started for me to really actually, even though people have accused it of ripping things off, I thought it got its own flavor by the end, to the point that some of it I didn't quite recognize as being Star Wars. But I dock it a few points for some strange, not very sound screenwriting decisions, and some bad Princess Leia.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. My main concern with it was not really original. It felt like I was watching a parallel to. I know you don't agree with me on that, but I really had a hard time sitting through it. I don't know if I'd watch it again.
Was it the Death Star thing that really did it in for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think they could have really went original with it, completely original, and it just felt too similar to everything we watched in the past. And I think with Carrie Fisher there, it brought down a good point.
That's a whole letter grade right there.
I would say 9 out of 10. I just went to the movie and I loved it. Thought it was fun. And then it was just the overall story arc was way too close to the original. That's the one thing kind of annoyed me.
I give it a 8 out of 10, and I agree with you, Aaron. It did run some plot points a little too closely, and again, I agree that it did bring things in a very interesting interesting place by the end that I was like, oh, I want to see where they go with this.
I'm guessing I'm going to love 8 and 9 a lot better than this one.
Rian Johnson is directing. He's one of my favorite directors working right now. He did several episodes of Breaking Bad. He did Brick, which was an awesome movie, and he did Looper, which was amazing.
J.J. Abrams, I feel like, is very George Lucas-y in this approach where you're introducing a bunch of stuff, and then you bring in a much more seasoned director to actually tell like a more deeper story. So I hope that's what's going to happen, but you never know.
But if they get the Godzilla guy or the Jurassic World guy to do the third one, I'm out.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
It was very serious.
And now, let's eat cookies.
Yeah, we have to eat some cookies.